How many books have you written to date?
4.
Four.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what the process is like for you to get into a book. Is it that you're in the shower or you're doing something in the house and it just a light bulb hits you and then you want to scribble something down? Talk us through your process.
For the first book, it was short stories about our childhood because that's what the exercises were. Through the Window, I can't remember the original idea. Oh, wait, I do. There was a movie, I think it was Elizabeth, the first or second. And
Queen
there
Elizabeth?
was... Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But not Lizzie that just died. I think someone else in history.
Oh, okay.
It was her and Sir Walter Riley, I think it was, in a room, and I think they were friends, lovers, something like that. And I think she was interested in him, and he said, "I'd rather be your friend than to spoil our relationship, basically, to become lovers." And that kind of inspired me. It's like, I can see that dynamic playing out in my head. Because I'm an 80s baby, so all that 90s love music.
Yeah.
All the love of basketball and the brown sugar and the wood and
that played into
right. So that played into Through the Window. For the next book, The Wonderful World of Johan, he kind of popped into my head because I wanted to do a submission for Caribbean Airlines. They had a in-flight magazine. They were looking for stories. He just randomly popped in my head. This little boy has an active imagination and sees things differently because kids. Like, you sit down and listen to kids playing, like, they just come up with all of these
characters
wild,
adventures and...
Right. So I based the character off of that. I didn't hear back from the magazine. Hey, Caribbean Airlines. But thank you, But, so, I don't know, it's maybe 2 or 3 years later, it kept bugging me. I was like, this is a really nice character. You should do some more. So I just kind of... thought of scenarios that a child would see something differently than what the reality is, and that would make sense. Like, in one of the books he hears, like, a howl. Like, we hear a howl, it's a dog. A child might think it's a wolf. So he bases his whole interaction around, I heard a wolf, there's a wolf. You know what I mean? So stuff like that, those kind of scenarios. So I did that book, short stories. And so I wanted to get it published. I wanted to do, get that validation and recognition and get it pushed out. And first of all, with the publishing process, you could be waiting up to a year easily for somebody to respond to you. It's kind of like, don't call us, we'll call you. So I actually sent it to a Caribbean publisher that I had been looking online to look at Caribbean books, see who they've been published by. Saw one that was based in St. Kitts, sent it to that person, and they responded quite quickly and said, no, children's stories shouldn't have these kind of themes or endings.
Really?
So I was kind of like, I don't really agree.
Okay.
Because it's not, everything doesn't have to be for, like, fairy tales and romance and, happy endings, like, and everybody lived happily ever after. He gets into trouble, he's mischievous, his parents and grandparents get upset with him.
It's a real book.
It's real. It's a kid. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to spend more time, because what I also read was that most international publishers are not interested in collections of short stories unless you're somebody that's well known.
Yeah.
I'm not. So I said, if I'm not going to get through the door anywhere, I'm just going to make my own. So that's where Moon Dancer books came from.
I love Moon Dancer. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody should read Moon Dancer.
So then the next book that came a couple years later, Dance on the Moon. That was not the original book I had set out to write, but something, once again, just
Triggered
that
it.
voice in your head says, you call yourself the Moon Dancer, but you've never written about it. Like, what does it mean? And literally at night, because I have a toddler, so I don't have all this free time to sit and think and write. Literally was in the bedroom at night, sitting on the floor with a book, and I just wrote it out.
So you wrote these thoughts first on paper?
I wrote the whole story out.
Before you start typing anything?
One night, yeah.
Okay.
The Wonderful World of Johan, no, that would be typing as a way longer book. But this one, because it's a picture book, and I've always wanted to do a picture book if I always wanted to see my writing illustrated. But I still didn't know what I'd write about, and it's got a little niggle like, this is what you need to do. And I just wrote it out one night and sitting in the bedroom in the corner. And then from there you kind of type it and you refine it, and then it goes to my editor. Shout out Joanne Hillhouse. that's a nerve-wracking week or two, because it's like, if Joanne likes it, this is good. So you sit there, you keep checking your email, she didn't respond yet. So when she sends back and she says, I really like it, you're just like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
okay,
you go
okay.
through that process with her and refining it, and then off to publishing and illustration and publishing.
A quick question. So, what was the transition like, going from writing like general stories to writing children's book? Because there is definitely a difference between writing a children's book or writing books for children versus writing a general book or book for adults. So what was that like for you?
It was easy for me because I think that's where I'm most comfortable. When I look through the stories that I have cataloged that I haven't put out yet, it's more on the children's side. It's easier to see life through their eyes. With adults, it's way more complicated, and there's just way more things you have to consider. And it's for me as a author, it's easier to look through life as a child.